Welcome back to another video in my networking series. Love it. Thank you if you watched the last video, which was about configuring switching features. That was definitely a lengthy one, but definitely a lot of fun as well. And this one, we're actually going to go over routing concepts and protocols. Now, the routing process is formed on layer 3 devices, right, such as router, firewall, and the switch, right? So it involves forwarding packets from the source to the destination, and the routing process is formed based on the destination IP address and other factors in the case of like policy-based routing, right? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to configure some routing and static routing. So based on the lab topology, I'm going to establish basic connectivity between our current switch here or router, the Edge 1, and the Edge 2 router. Now I'm going to use the loopback interfaces on both routers and then use those as destination networks and static routes. So let's actually get started. As you can see, the boot process is completely finished. And now I'm going to be in enable mode for this particular router so we can get going. All right. So the router, the Edge 1 is over gigabit Ethernet connected to the Edge 2 router, the gigabit Ethernet 01 port. And I'm going to set these ports as a point-to-point link between these devices that you'll see in a second. So let's go ahead and actually configure the terminal as normal, as usual, rather. All right, and then we can actually take a look at our host name, Edge 1. And now we can actually enter the interface configuration mode. We do this here. Okay. All right, perfect. So that's good. So now I'm going to issue a few commands to assign an IP address and enable the interface. So first, let's start with this one here. Not bad. There we do. No shutdown. Okay. So far, so good. So now I'm waiting for the boot process to complete. The state is up, which is good. And then it should ask me a question, just a few. Actually, this is fine, actually. I actually need to swivel over to Edge 2. Don't know. All right, and I'm actually going to go into there it is. There we go. I was able to sneak it in there. Okay, perfect. Now we're in. Do our host name. Oh, that's not. Okay, there we go. All right, now that's what I wanted to see. Now we can do the interface. All right, perfect. So we're almost good to go. Just a few things left. Okay, now we don't want to shut down. All right, perfect. So now I'm just going to check the connectivity between the routers. So let's do this here. And we're actually going to ping. And what do you mean? There it is. All right, so the ping looks like it's successful. All right, so now I'm just going to swivel over to Edge 1 and create a loopback interface. All right, so let's do that. Figure. All right. Then there, able to sneak that in. All right. So now we can do an IP. Okay. Then we don't want to shut down. Okay, perfect. So now we're creating a new loopback interface. We'll see something like uh can't don't see it yet. But it'll actually here it is. So it'll be something like this, right? As far as the notification message. So and just wanted to point out that that's totally normal. So now I'm going to swivel back over to Edge to create a loopback interface here as well. So let's actually go inside the terminal again. Yeah, right. Okay, there we go. We don't want to shut them. All right, and we want it to end. All right, perfect. So now I'm going to try to reach the loopback 100 interface that's on the Edge 1 router. So let's ping. All right. So the ping looks like it's not going to be successful, which is fine. So I'm just going to take a look at the routing table. Um, I see the loopbacks here. All right, now we can see that there are only C and L routes, which are connected in local networks. And I don't have a route to ending in 100.1 as far as a host, hence the ping being unsuccessful. So now I'm going to create a static route and point to the Edge 1 router in particular. So let's go back into the terminal. All right. Okay, perfect. So the 100.0, right? It was used as the destination network and the 10.0.1 as the next hop. So instead of the whole subnet, um, it can be used as the destination as far as dot 100 dot one. At the destination, and a static route can be created to just this host. So now I'm just going to ping again here, and we see the success rate is a lot different because I have a route to this network. So I'm actually going to show the IP route again. Okay, now we see one more. Right, so now if you compare what we have here to the one I had before, we can see that the S here, I have a static route to 192.168.100, right? So now I can look into configuring the default route. Now, a default route is just another static route, but it's global. Now, if I create one on my device, it will use that route for any unknown network. And an unknown network doesn't have a specific route in the routing table, right? So I'm actually going to swivel back over to Edge 1 to check the connectivity to 200.1 by pinging it. So let's take a look what we have here. Oh, that's fine. And there we go. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to create a default route and then point it to the Edge 2 router. So to do that, I'm going to configure the terminal. Of course, IP route. Let's see. All right. Now I'm going to check the connectivity again by pinging. Wow, that was lightning fast. So now I'm going to take a look at the routing table on Edge 1. Okay, perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So from the output, we can see that there's now a static route in the routing table, which is a default route. So what I'm going to do now is do some configuring for the routing information base, which is the distance vector routing protocol that uses the number of hops as a metric. So let's actually swivel back over to Edge 2, and we're going to hop back in the terminal. All right, and then no IP out. Darn it. Just hate those small, very small errors that could have been avoided. Right, so then let's swivel back over to Edge 1. Figure this terminal. Right, we're going to do the same. No, we're going to spell it right this time. IP route. Let's see. Okay, perfect. We can end it here. All right. So now I'm going to check the connectivity to loopback 200 with pinging like this here. Right. And of course, the ping is unsuccessful. That's to be expected. So now I'm just going to take a look at the IP route. Right. So it can be seen that there's only, again, CNL types, which are local and connected routes. And as the name suggests, those are the network connected to this router on the interfaces. So now I'm going to configure RIP version 2 on this router here. So let's get back inside the terminal. So let's do router RIP. We're going to do version 2. All right. Then we're going to do network. Then network. And we're going to end it. All right, so I'm going to do the same for Edge 2, configuring the RIP version 2. We're going to get back to jumping back inside the terminal. All right, and then router RIP version 2 network. Okay, perfect. And of course, we want to end it here. And we're going to take a look at that IP route. Okay. LC, send it Ls. All right. Yeah, stale season out. I was expecting um another label, but I guess not. Probably should take a look into why. Let me see. Oh, everything looks pretty in line with what it's supposed to. But nonetheless, let's move forward. So I'm going to swivel back over to Edge 1, and I'm going to have it show up here out here. All right. This is giving me what I expect. Right. So there is a route to the 200.0 network, and it has the R label. That's what I was looking for, which is another RIP learned route. So now I'm going to just check the connectivity for it with pinging it naturally, right? That was very quick. Another successful ping. And now I'm going to swivel back over to Edge 2. Going to ping it again. Well, I'm going to ping 100 instead of 200. Okay, another successful ping, which is fine. So I'm actually going to delete the routing configuration for each before I move on to the next thing I do. So I'm going to place you guys on the other side of that so we can start configuring some enhanced interior gateway routing protocol. All right, so let's take a look at this IP route. Okay, perfect. Well, almost perfect. So I'm just going to now configure the EIGRP with a few commands. So let's dive back into the terminal, right? And then we're going to do router. Okay. No, we don't want an auto summary. Okay. And then we're going to end it here, right? And we're going to do the same thing on the other edge as well. Okay. We're going to, of course, well, I nearly ended it. Now we're going to end it. So the moment that I enter the command for the EIGRP routing on the second one, which is the other side of the link, the routers, they're going to establish a neighborship, and I'm going to see the output shown in here. And after the neighbor relationship is established, the routing information can be exchanged. You can see here. Okay. So let's actually go back inside the terminal here. And let's go to our network. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Here, let's change that. All right, so we have that situated. So now we can do properly continue. There we go. We can actually end it here. Right, and then we're gonna do the same thing on edge 2. I'm not gonna take you guys through that. Go. Perfect, and now we can exit. And we can actually take a look here at our IP route. That is not perfect. There we go. Now we have another neighbor to the party. Have a D here. Now we have a route to our network, right? And our routing table marked as D, which is a code for EIGRP. Now we can actually test the connectivity. And of course, we look good there. So let's take a look on Edge 2. So we're going to configure the loopback 250 interface with Edge 2. So let's actually do this here. That's fine. Okay, perfect. Exit out of there. And we can also exit out of here so we can be shown the IP route here as well. Uh, there we go. We have another neighbor to the party. We have the D. And since the network 0000 was used in the EIGRP configuration for this, I'm going to see this route in the routing table of Edge 1 router without any additional configuration. So with that being said, sit back here so we can actually take a ping to 250 here. And of course, another ping that's successful, right? And we can swivel back here. We can actually show something else. Yeah, GRP neighbors. So we have this here. All right. All right, perfect. So now, actually, let me see here. Okay, I see it. All right, perfect. So this looks good. All right, so now I'm going to view the topology table. So, okay, like I saw here. Now the topology, what it does is it includes all known routes, but only the best routes are placed in the routing table naturally, right? So now I'm going to remove the EIGRP configuration of routers. I'm not going to put you guys through that. I'll put you guys on the other side. All right, so now I can get into the next thing, which is configuring the open shortest path first, which is a link state routing protocol. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop right back into the terminal. I don't want to talk too much. It's going to be a link. All right, so let's do OSPF 1, right? And now I'm going to do network 10, 10, 0, 0, and then 0, 0, 0, 5, area 0, right? So now I'm going to connect to Edge 2 and do the exact same thing. Actually, if I do so many of these, I'll just place you guys on the other side of me doing this because it can take up some runtime that I don't necessarily care for. Don't my I want my videos to be to the point as far as getting across the concept of what it is that I'm doing versus just being a video just to be there. As far as padding runtime and making it long as possible, that's not my goal at all. So I see there's a bit of a different message. Um, thought that was, let's see, VR exchange. I thought that would be a different message, but nonetheless, this is all fine. So let's move back over to Edge 1. We're going to add the loopback network by typing in a few other things here. So let's do network. Um, going on here? Yeah, perfect. All right, that's the end of that. Now I'm going to add a loopback network for Edge 2 as well. So let's do this one here. Okay, perfect. And we can actually do this one as well. So now just I want to take a look at the IP route now. I made the few changes. All right, we have CLNO. Right, so we have a route to the destination 100.1 in my routing table marked as O, which is a code for OSPF, which is the whole reason why we're doing this. I'm actually going to take a look at the IP route for Edge 1 as well. Right, and again, we have another O here. We have two routes in our routing table marked as O, which is again the code for OSPF, which again, if you did forget, like I would normally, is called the open shortest path first. But nonetheless, we now we can see both the O's for the IP route that's shown, and we can actually take a look at checking the connectivity as well that we have. All right, that's fine. And I'm also want to see the neighbors again. Okay, where did I? Yes, it disappears. But nonetheless, now similar to the EIGRP routing protocol, OSPF, it first establishes a neighbor relationship and then exchanges the link state database. Therefore, the output that we have here to be saying that Edge 1, that router has established a neighbor relationship to the router with the ID 250.1, which is the Edge 2 router here, as I mentioned prior. So now I'm going to check the OSPF database on this router here by doing this here set of neighbors going to be database. And here we can see it. There. All right, perfect. So from our output, right, we can see a couple different things. The router link states, link IDs, the routers, the age, the checksum, and things of that nature. But before I continue, I'm going to actually remove the OSPF configuration from both routers, Edge 1 and Edge 2. Now we can get into some interior versus exterior gateway protocol and the difference between them, right, that we can discuss. And we're also going to look into enabling border gateway protocol or routers, which are used for communication on the internet. So first, what I'm going to do is configure BGP, right, which is, again, a routing protocol that runs on the internet. Now, prior to this, we did interior gateway protocols, and they all run the same algorithm as find a shorter path to the destination, or OSPF, really, in the, that sense. And that path or route is then placed on the routing table. Now, in contrast, what BGP does is it uses different route attributes to find the optimal path to the destination. So it has a number of attributes that are compared to using a specific order. And there's two different types. You have an external and which uses between different autonomous systems, and internal, which is used within the same autonomous system. Right. So naturally, we're going to head inside the terminal here for Edge 1. Right. Then we're going to do BGP router. We're gonna do outer 10. Then we're gonna do neighbor 10, 10, 0, 2, vote 20, which is fine. Now I'm going to do the same pretty much for edge 2. All right, and as you can see, I've done the same for edge 2. And we'll see in a moment, we'll see that the ages, adjacency is up. All right, so now I'm going to take a look at the neighbors also. So let's actually go on here in this, and I'm actually going to show the GP, right? Now it can be seen that the PFX, right, prefix is 0, right? And this is because the router had to learn any prefixes from this neighbor. Now I'm going to advertise networks to the BGP neighbors. And I got to start with edge 1 first. So let's actually do this here. And not only got that configured, now I'm going to advertise network to BGP neighbors. So to do that, let's go here. I'm going to dive back into the terminal. Okay. Perfect. Now I'm going to do one more here. Okay, perfect. Now the BBG, now as I mentioned before, the BGP runs on the internet. Hence, every check-in configuration needs to be propagated all over the world and compared to IGPs. Okay, so now I'm going to take a look at the routing table. Right, there it is. All right, so now I can see that I have a route to the destination ending in 100.0. Right. Just right here. There it is. 100.0. And yeah, there in here. And my routing table marked as B, right, which is code for BGP. Now I want to swivel back over to edge 1 so I can take a look at the routing table. Okay. Let's do this here. Right, so now I can see that I have a route to the network in my routing table marked as B again, which is code for BGP. So now I'm going to check the connectivity between the loopback networks. Let's actually stop this. And let's do a ping. Perfect. Another successful ping. So let's swivel over here. Post this out. I'm going to show IP. Okay. All right. A release quick glance here, right? The PFX RCD is now 1 because I received one prefix from this neighbor. There's a couple different other things we could get to as well, like time to live, which every packet has a field called for the TTL value. which prevents packets from indefinitely traversing the network from router to router, bandwidth management, quality of service, and traffic shaping. But nonetheless, it shapes up to the end of the video. Just to cover very briefly what we recap what we've done, we went over routing protocol configuration and interior versus exterior gateway protocol. This was most certainly fun, another lengthy one, but fun all in all. And on the next one's even going to be even more fun. We're going to go over troubleshooting common networking issues. Hope to see you there. Stay curious, stay secure.